All right, hello everyone. Thanks for having me here at Crystal Groves. It's great to see everybody. I'm Warlord Magni, and this is Sir Warlord Nip. We're excited for the next installment of my Newb to Warlord series, and today this is going to be a little bit different of a class. We're going to talk about burnout prevention. We're not really going to be walking through, mechanics of shots or anything, but more conceptually and about our path in Amtgard or Dork or LARPing, and attainment of masterhoods or that award or goal or whatever we want to get out of this game or whatever game you play. So, really, what we're going to be looking at is what is burnout, what does it look like, what are the causes or what are the common causes, how to kind of treat and prevent burnout, and then additionally, Nip and I will,
Sorry, I was just repeating what you're going to say.
Yeah, and then Nip and I will look at talk about some anecdotes about the times that we've experienced burnout in Amtgard. I'm going to talk a little bit about my fighting journey as well as journey outside of fighting. And then I'll open it up for some Q&A section so we can try to answer your questions and give a little bit of advice as best as we can.
Maybe people could even give their own stories on maybe some burnout they've experienced and how they've overcome it as well.
Yeah, that would be great.
So
you gotta talk louder.
Sorry, I will project.
Yeah, come on, you were in theater.
Yes, I'm a theater person.
Right. So just to let everybody know, when I went through and put this material together and I did my research on burnout, a lot of the material out there is for burnout in the workplace, okay? And I've tried to do my best to adjust this material and tailor it for Amtgard and for LARP. But without further ado, let's get it. So first question, what is burnout and what does it look like? So burnout, it seems a little self-explanatory of like you're burnt out, but that's not super
descriptive.
It doesn't detail everything, right? So burnout is, if you come to Amtgard, you come to whatever, and whenever you do it, you like dread doing it. You are like emotionally exhausted, and it seems like it is not a joy anymore. It is a hurdle to get to.
It becomes a job.
Yeah, that is now tailoring for, or it's approaching burnout. If you lose interest in whatever it is, the sword path of climbing, again, it becomes a job, it becomes a chore, you're probably approaching burnout. And then lastly, the last big signature is depersonalization. You begin to distance yourself and from your friends, from the community around you, and you don't want to interact with them. If you show really any of those three signs, you could be very well approaching burnout. All right.
Sorry, I was about to say, I guess I'm burnt out right now.
Shut up.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. Burnout, right? Like, you kind of have to recognize these yourself. A lot of introspection. And once you realize you're beginning to burn out, how do you prevent it? But also, what are some of the causes, right? So some of this can be excessive workload. You're diverting way too much of your time to the game. I know, right? Like when we're climbing the Warlord ladder every day, 2, 3, 4 fighter practices, just day in, day out, grind.
And you tend to get injured.
Yep.
Constantly.
Yeah. And you just like push through it. I just got to do more.
One next hurdle.
Right. Additionally, you can get burnout between a mismatch in values. So this can be typically between what you value your work at and then what the community or organization values your work, right? You can say, oh, I'm deserving of Warlord, but if the community doesn't recognize you, you can get burned out by that, especially if it's a continual problem.
Because ultimately we're all people, so different monarchs and different leaders have different levels of what they think masterhood is.
Yep.
So it can if to your next point, it goes to unfairness. It can be really hard to obtain something because everyone either bases their feelings or how they feel like someone deserves the reward based on their internal feelings about someone. So if you actually don't like someone, I feel like it kind of makes that ladder a little harder to achieve for someone.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
So I just wanted to
No, you're good. That was great.
The point of unfairness that's on here.
Next, as well as like you can feel like what you're doing is having limited impact. So
absolutely,
for my experience in the fighting area is like, okay, I can be grinding, 3-4 days a week, and if I don't ever feel like I'm getting that next step, that next, I'm not getting to where I need to go in terms of progress. That is very easy to burn somebody out.
One point off of that, and this is for a lot of people in the fighting community, a lot of people don't realize that they are making progress, and they'll get burnt out when they actually are making progress, but they won't notice.
Yes.
And this is something that a lot of people need to realize, is if you fight with the same group of 4 people, like every week, they're also improving. So you'll never really test yourself, and you'll never really know if you are getting better. I know, like, I don't want to put my squire out there, but he's had talks with me about this before where he's like, oh, I don't feel like I'm getting better. Well, it's like, well, you can't really use that as a good litmus test, because like if you're going to get better, I'm also going to get better. Therefore, you're just not going to see the progress. So the best way to go see progress, especially in the martial classes, is to go out and go fight other people in a different location and really test yourself.
Yeah, especially like going off of that, like if you go to a big event, right? Like you go to Keep or, Spring War or whatever, and you fight somebody there, and then whatever, you have interactions with fighters or whatever, and then a year later you fight those same people. That's really how you're going to be able to gauge your growth in that year.
But even then, that can be weird, because they could have a stalled point of time where they didn't fight, or they could have a point in time where they really grinded and you maybe only fought once a week. So like,
everything is relative.
You just got to find that you enjoy the grind.
Yes.
If you don't enjoy the grind, you'll never make it. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
But continue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. So limited impact also kind of falls into like not achieving your goals. And then I think one of the last big causes is you're only focused on outcomes. Right. So I think we see this a lot in the fighting path of some people. They get on the Warlord grind and they just want Warlord.
Yep.
They don't really care about getting good necessarily. It's just, I need to get that. That's where I need to go. And, everything in the middle is just a barrier. And that's
when people can get a little shitty.
Yes.
I mean, because I think everyone can attest to the fact that, like, generally people who are up-and-comers who are really close to getting it are, like, at level 7, maybe 8 or 9, and they have that one last push. Everyone's felt it that's been there before. We tend to get a little shitty.
Yes.
It's not until after you get the bird that you really kind of, like, realize,
simmer down.
What the hell I was doing this? I mean, it's really an important award. Mastery is important, but then afterwards you sit there and you realize, I didn't need to be so aggressive, or I didn't need to be so intense during certain moments. We could have all just relaxed.
Yeah.
But we can say that as much as we want, but realistically, that's not what's going to happen. We just try our best to fix it.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, those are kind of like the main causes. So now that we understand how burnout kind of happens and what are some of the root causes, we can think about ways to prevent those scenarios if we are approaching burnout, and then how to come out of burnout after that. Right. So the first thing that I like in the workspace, productivity is a big thing, right? Like you got to be productive. That's how everything is measured. And I think, at least for me as an engineer, I think about my path going forward is in terms of productivity, whether that be as a warlord in the serpent path and the service path, whatever, right? How am I providing value to either myself or the game? And I think, so there's a couple different definitions of productivity. And in like America, I think it's very common to say like traditional productivity. The definition of traditional productivity is physical outcomes, right? This is from like the manufacturing era in the United States of, I do this work, I have a physical product, and the more I work and the better I get more physical product. But the thing is that that's not really how the game works. Okay, if you do art, right, you can make more paintings or more whatever, but there's also a lot more that goes into the art itself, like the detail, the techniques. You know, I know Piper's here, not to point Piper out, but like the baking, right?
Mhm.
It's not just like, oh, I made more muffins, but like, damn, these muffins are like so much better because XYZ scrum diddly umptious,
Scrum diddly
right?
umptious.
Selling bread, by the way, if anybody wants some.
Yeah.
Sourdough bread. Come grab some from me later.
But again, like the traditional definition of productivity doesn't really work. And so since we don't produce stuff in this game, and in the United States economically anymore, there's been the shift towards like pseudo productivity. And the best way of describing this is if you're being busy, that means you're being productive, right? If I'm doing stuff, that means I'm working, right? So I have to get an outcome. But again, that's not what it means, right? Like Nip and I could be fighting and we could throw the same block strike every time. Just do this again and again and again. And we're doing work, yeah. We'll be the best block strikers in the game. But that doesn't make you a warlord, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
A good way to prevent that is when you go to practice, have a particular goal in mind. So, and what I mean by that is say you have a number in your head and you decide, like, before every encounter, I want to block one shot to improve my defense before I'm even able to throw back. And that's something you don't ever have to tell your opponent. You could also maybe go into practice and be like, I really want to hit sword side hip. I can't hit sword side hip, but I'm not going to tell Magni that I'm only aiming for his sword side hip today during practice. And even if I get it,
don't clap in front of the microphone. Even
if I don't get it 5 times, I mean, if I only get it 5 times, that's like, that's a success for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's now this new upcoming definition of productivity. It's called slow productivity. And so what slow productivity really thinks about is quality over quantity. Okay. It is the quality of the outcomes over the amount of time that you put in. Right. So try to focus on fewer things, right? Like Nip, this is a great segue of, I'm going to focus on the sword side hip. I'm going to focus on block. And then every time I have to block before I throw, right? Don't try to do all of these all at once.
Drink
because
from the fire hose.
Yeah, it's going to distract you and you're not going to be able to hone any one skill. Okay. Work at a natural pace and don't try to overload yourself. When your body tells you, hey, this hurts, it's not a good idea to keep pushing, right? Like that's how injuries occur. And well, when you hurt yourself, that takes time out of the game. Like, and that has like
or it
its
doesn't,
own...
and then you injure yourself more.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I've broken both my ankles like multiple times.
Idiot.
Yeah.
Also, like,
it hasn't happened for a bit.
I'm proud of you. And on top of that, right, like obsess over quality, obsess over being able to achieve, that money shot perfectly in a variety of different circumstances. Focus on really like the value that you invest, or focus on investing your values and your time on the things that matter the most. Work on, understand your strengths and then build on your weaknesses. So just, again, like focus on quality over quantity and use that as your definition for productivity.
Segueing off of that, quality is more important in terms of like, when I go to practice, it's not important to win. And this is something that Warlord Raven says a lot.
Yeah.
So don't measure your success off of only winning, because if I do the same thing every time to win, I'm not going to get any better.
Yeah.
So that's just something.
How well do you like respond in a fight? How well can you like counter and do these different setups or adjust at any single moment, for example? So moving on from productivity, a little bit, like, do impactful work less than doing more work, right? I mean, I guess that kind of goes to productivity a little bit more. Moving past that, I spent too much time in the Midwest.
Seek
Goal
out
setting
okay,
is really important. I mixed
no,
up
you're
the
good.
notes a little
You're
bit.
Good.
As you're thinking about being productive, you need to set good goals.
Reasonable goals.
Reasonable goals that are very attainable, right? Like, okay, if I want to be
Warlord in a month.
Yeah, like day one, that's not reasonable nor attainable. Okay, here I am. I'm bad at spinning. How do I spin? How do I learn to spin? Nip doesn't like when I spin.
Don't spin.
Right. Or
you'll break my swords.
How do I throw money? Right. That's how do I break down this big complex problem that is Warlord into sizable chunks that you can easily digest and grow upon. Warlord is kind of more of a marathon than a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's true for any masterhood or major goal, whether it be like Paragon or like Dragon Master, Master Garber, whatever. It's never a sprint. It's always a marathon. It's always, the long distance run.
Another good goal to have that I've always struggled with is like being comfortable in a tournament setting. So like I always like throw up before every tournament. So like a good goal for me is to be like, this time I'm not gonna do that. Or I'm just kidding. Or like when I step into the ring for this fight, I'm gonna be like, okay, I really don't want to step back. My first instinct is to always step back if I don't know something, but maybe this time I'll find success if I just stay still. So like you can find little goals and things like that. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I must win this category today. It could be like, let me just bracket for each category.
Yeah.
Let me see how many kills I can get. Oh, Warlord Magni's in this tournament. Let me see if I can kill Magni 5 times. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like super crazy goals.
Yeah, I mean, I think like just kind of going off of that, this is a little tangential here. But like when I was on my climb, and I was really wanting to go for Warlord, I would walk into tournaments and say like, all right, I don't expect to win. Maybe I can, but I want to be able to bracket in at least one category. Okay, do that. I bracket. Maybe I bracket in all of the categories. Okay, cool. Next tournament. I want to bracket in all the categories, right? I'm building up from that last baseline, but now I want to be able to make it through the first 2 rounds or whatever. And then maybe I want to place in one category. Okay, now I want to win. Or now I want to place in the tournament. Okay, now that I can place in the tournament, now I want to try to win the tournament. So there's a gradual progression to think about. All right, going from that.
I can tell you this. Wait 1 second. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off.
You're fine.
It doesn't get better after you get the bird either. A lot of people think that a lot of like their worries and stuff about tournaments and stuff go away after they get Warlord. That's what I mean when I say bird, if a lot of people don't know. When they get the chicken. Because realistically, it actually almost gets a little bit worse in a way. Because a weight is lifted because you don't have to get Warlord anymore, but there's almost this expectation that you must perform every single time you enter. And I feel like that's why you actually see a lot of people that get Sword Knight or Warlord and they actually don't play anymore. Because there's so much pressure on them to do well that it's kind of just like not fun anymore. Because to be honest with you, when you join the tournament, people just expect you to do well.
Yep.
So no one's ever rooting for you or ever in your corner. They're just kind of like, man, I really hope someone kicks Magni's ass today. You know what I mean? Like, so it just gets to be really, really frustrating.
Yeah.
So if anyone thinks that just by getting the Warlord, it's all going to end, it doesn't.
It gets worse.
It kind of gets worse.
Yeah.
So like, try to enjoy the process to getting it. Because there's only going to be one time that you get it.
Yep.
You're never going to not like have it once you got it. So, well, you could get banned, but that's a whole different thing. That's a different kind of burnout.
Yeah. Looking out past this, right, in terms of like being able to treat and prevent burnout, build relationships that matter. Seek out friends and make friends that.
That's my wife. Continue.
Yep. Seek out friends that are, there in that community to help lift you up, that you guys can drive each other. Look out mentors, right? Nip was one of my mentors when I was on my climb. Look out for coaches, people that, there's somewhat of a blurred line between a mentor and a coach, but the coach is really there saying like, you need to work on throwing more chops. You need to work on this. This specifically is what's going to carry you to the next step. Whereas like the mentor, I think, is someone to really look at, up to, and strive towards. Okay.
Not only looking for mentors, but look to be a mentor.
Yep.
Because teaching someone will also help you learn something.
Yes. Yes.
So, like I always encourage my squires to try to teach others.
Yeah. Yeah. Every time like I teach these classes, I learn so much more about the game, and I become a better fighter from it.
It also helps prevent burnout. If you care about someone else's progression in the game, it'll help. I don't want to say keep you in the game, but it'll keep you more interested in the game. And
Yes.
that's happened to me, definitely. That's definitely a personal thing. Like when it was like right after COVID, when no one was really playing, having Fabian Stug in my life kept me in the game. So that's just
Yeah.
yeah.
On the topic of friends, like especially in Amtgard, your friends, if you see your people doing great stuff, recommend them.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm bad
Like
at that.
people,
I'm sorry.
get out of my class. There's so many times, right? Like within a kingdom, there's so much going on. It's incredibly easy for any one person to fall through the cracks. And so if, maybe, I travel and go do a tournament, out far away, in a different kingdom on a different side of the country, and I win, I need recommendations to come in because like I can say I won this, but other people need to back it up for Kingdom to take it to heart and for them to act on it. And
Or at least for them to take it seriously.
yes, or to take it seriously, right? I think that's very true in the arts community as well, in the service community, especially in the service community.
Probably even more because it's harder to gauge what like quality service is.
Yes, and
So-
also like there's so many people behind the scenes. Like an event like this, so many people are devoting so many hours of their life, not just here at the game, but beforehand, all the planning, all of the logistics. Like it's hard to kind of comprehend, and it's hard like to recognize them unless you're there, like seeing the work being done. So as friends, it's our responsibility to recommend people. So do that. Okay. Going a little bit back. So vary your workload is a great way to prevent burnout, right? If you're devoting 3 days, 4 days of your life to one grind, it may be a good idea to back away, especially if it's feeling like a chore, like, maybe I can only do the, like, I'll just do park days, or I'll just do one fighter practice.
Maybe I'll go play Disney Lorcana.
Yes, right? Assess your values on the path. How important is it, and what is important to you? If it's the masterhood, is it the masterhood that's important, or is it the skills that you get along the way? Okay, yeah,
It's the skills.
it's really the skills. Okay. That kind of goes into like restructuring your relationship with the game, or whatever that path is. Trying to, push out the toxicity, whether it be in yourself or the community around you. And I know Nip can talk about this, especially fairly recently, but taking time off, right? This is a hobby. Amtgard, boffer, larp, it is a hobby. It is a game. And I think that is something that everybody needs to like check themselves on all the time, is that this is a game. Have fun. It's not meant to like, right? Like it shouldn't be stressing you out. It shouldn't be like giving you ulcers, hypertension, high blood pressure, right? Like you should be coming here and be like, I'm having fun, right? Like it's a great time. It's supposed to be a great time. But if that's the case for you, right, maybe take a step back.
Mhm.
You know, work on some other hobby. Or if you want to stay in Amtgard or LARP, try to focus on a different aspect.
Yeah.
Look at battle games, right? Look at art. Look at service. Look at leadership. You know, there's, especially in Amtgard, there's so much to do outside of the fighting world. Like, it doesn't have to be this.
Absolutely.
It can be anything. Or, you know, like Nip took a step away for
Like
a couple,
3 months
Yeah.
to play a silly card game
right? And that's totally cool.
that I'm still playing.
It's totally cool,
It's really fun.
right? And that kind of like brings your passion back for the game.
Yeah. I mean, you have to really get back to your roots and realize why you started playing in the first place. Because I remember my first day of Amtgard, I saw a ditch field, and then I was like, oh my gosh. And then we get a game where you have abilities after. So somehow at some point in that process, I left that and it only became one-on-one fighting.
Yep.
But you get really burnt out from that real quick, especially through all these different methods that we talked about in here, like not setting proper goals, not seeing
Your progress.
your progress. So what really helps is actually realizing, and I didn't even really do this until later, is realizing that there's other things that you can be good at, other things you can do. Like something that I've started doing more recently is I've been doing more bardic stuff. I've been doing that at Keep and stuff
That's
like
great.
that, and that's really fun. Except for some reason they had it like a mile away from site at the last Keep, which is stupid. Sorry, that's recorded. Also, just like battle gaming, like I'm a proponent of like when you play Amtgard, you should try to participate in many aspects of the game, but I'm not going to force you to, you know,
That's
do what you don't want to do.
toxic positive culture. How dare you?
But like what also really helped was just like realizing one-on-one fighting isn't necessarily what I want to be doing all the time. I want everyone to be ditching together, because I remember back when I first started playing Amtgard, everyone would ditch.
Yep,
It wouldn't matter who you were. There weren't like cliques. It was just like, okay, we're going to ditch for an hour,
time to line up.
and then we're going to all go battle game. We're not going to go break off to the side and like spar. We're going to battle game for 2 hours. Then we're going to ditch, and then we're going to 1v1 fight until everyone's gone. And that was like, to me, what felt like the perfect core of Amtgard for me for the longest time. And I felt like at some point I got away from that, and it became, let's just one-on-one fight, and they can do their silly thing, and I'm going to do my silly thing, and then I'm just not going to talk to them. But really, it just kind of builds for people, and they start hating each other.
I think
So-
just as a quick like tangent, a lot of that mentality came from the sword culture at the time
I
of
imagine.
like, we are the stick jocks and those are the nerds.
Oh yeah, and by the way, I hate being called a stick jock. Do not call me that.
Thanks for that, ammo. Right, but it's like, no, we gotta get better. Like justice. It's just you and me, Nip, or whatever.
Just you and me.
Yeah, right. Like it's just gonna be this 1v1. You know, forget everything else. And I think
They got ice balls. I don't want to deal with that.
yeah, the game I think as a whole has begun to transition away from that, and I think that's really needed for Amtgard as a whole, as well as the fighting culture.
It also helps just if the warlords aren't dickheads.
Yes,
So
yeah. Thinking that we're better than everybody else because we don't battle game or whatever, some silly shit.
Yeah.
We're all playing the same game. Like, get the fuck over it. But, alright, so those are kind of our long list of how to treat and prevent. And that's really the whole class as a whole. But now we're going to talk about a little bit of our personal stories.
I kind of already said.
I mean, we kind of have, yeah.
Yeah.
Throughout it. I'll talk a little bit. I guess I'll tell a personal more story for me.
I think I might have one, but I'll wait till after.
So like you kind of alluded to it for me of like, so fighting for me in Amtgard, I've never really gotten burned out because, I mean, I'm a chemical engineer, and so much of my life has been school and intense, like, and then I came and did my PhD out here in CG,
Woo!
and so that was I was working 60-hour weeks, Monday through Friday, and I had a wife, and so like I didn't have time for negativity, right?
I
So
like
like
how that was a benchmark too. I worked 60-hour weeks, and there's my wife. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm glad she doesn't watch these. Right, but
I
no, like
also
all
have
of my
life.
time, I had to compartmentalize my time of like, I go to work, I shifted my schedule, I went to work at 5 a.m. every morning to get off at 5 p.m. so I can spend time with my wife when she got off at her job for the night, went to bed, do it Monday through
Mhm.
Friday, Saturday, all of her day. Or like I'm with her all day. And then Sunday, she knew that Amtgard meant so much to me that she let me do this, right? And so I couldn't let all of the superfluous bullshit
Get to
in
that.
the game get me down. I'm here to have fun, and I'm not gonna, let some sluffer or whatever. Like, it can't be a bad day because then it's a waste, right? Um, so getting better, like the fighting community was there for me, and it was kind of my outlet to offload all of that stress. But I've gotten more burned out after the Warlord because of the tournament culture of, again, like nobody's in my corner.
Mm-mm.
Everybody is like, I gotta beat you so I can get it. Um, and especially as a young warlord, like I'm expected to be there. I'm expected to hold the mantle
Mhm.
and to win and to place and to participate.
And
And
from Magni's point of view too, when you're a new warlord, a lot of people will seek you out to test you.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So they'll be like, "Oh, Magni ain't shit. I just crushed him." And then you know that they'll go and say stuff behind people's back. So that's something that you also have to look forward to if you get it.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. And so like that, I've been over the last year, I've been really like working on this part of Amtgard. Like my, post Warlord for me has been a new journey. But when I went to Rakis 2 weeks, I had a really, really amazing experience with Sir Augustus.
Hmm.
In the tournament, we went up and, we tapped swords and hugged and everything. And, I said good luck to Augustus, and Augustus has this huge smile on his face. And he says, I don't need luck. I'm here to have fun. And I'm like,
That's so positive.
yeah. I was like, oh my God, that is what the standard I need to set now.
Good.
So like that's what I'm gonna try to do, and it was a very refreshing experience. I mean, the Rakis tournament for me was refreshing because every fight, every match in the brackets, we started with a hug, and we told each other good luck. And in the Amtgard that I started in, that would never have been the case.
Yeah.
I mean, even in my Warlord climb, it was like I'm here to put you in the dirt.
Mhm.
But now, as a warlord and aspiring sword knight, I want to benefit the game and promote the culture, and that is inspiring me to continue on. So, your turn.
Good. Oh, I gotta follow that. I mean, honestly, I feel like I hit all my topics on.
I mean, it also doesn't have to be
Burnout.
fighting.
Doesn't have to be fighting. I mean, that's all I do, I guess.
You nerd.
But I'm such a nerd. I don't know.
Okay, I can.
I think we should turn it over to
Yeah. I was
the
gonna say
people that might have.
let's switch over to questions, and we can try to answer them as best as possible. Does anybody have any questions about Burnout? Anything? Yeah.
I would say a pretty large percentage of Amtgarders who get burned out, or LARPers in general who get burned out, are those in weekly leadership. Are those in weekly leadership?
Yeah.
Not just running events, which are a lot of work and they're huge, but weekly leadership is for the marathon that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Although events are a part of that. Can you speak at all to things on
What the hell?
I was going to summarize the question, but
they won't be able to hear the question.
yeah. All right, so
I love this so much.
weekly leadership
Weekly leadership is
is a marathon.
very. It's consuming
Yes.
in a lot of ways, and a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the percentage of not all by any means, but a lot of people who are burned out are those who are in
Are
active
doing the
office
day in and day out work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And who honestly do a lot of the same volunteering at events over and over. Can you speak to any advice on things like that? Because I am there right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, there's no...
Actively.
I am actively burnt out right now.
Yeah.
I am only here because of the people, which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
The relationships,
Yeah.
like you said earlier, they're a massive...
Proponent.
These are
You're here for the
times,
community.
the only times you're going to see a lot of the people, because there's a lot of people that play this game and you care about them, and these are the only time you're going to see them.
Yeah.
But yeah, can
I
you
think
speak to that?
Yeah, I think for me, I would recommend, restructure the relationship, take the step back. Like you have, right? We can share this. But then again, like,
Just kidding.
oh, I was like,
I was going to share.
Do you want your puffball back? I love it so much.
And then on top of that, right, like, other people, if you are at a barony, which like Blackthorn is, right, there are other people that are available to do it. And I think something for people to realize is that every rain doesn't have to be a hit. Every rain doesn't have to be amazing. Okay, you don't always have to grow as a park. Sometimes maintaining is good enough, right? Have your core players, and that's what you need. I mean, of course, like, try to make sure your core players are there, and you don't have to do that by being in park leadership or running events, but just coming out and being like, hey, I'm with my friends. I love seeing you guys. This is our time together, and really like soaking that time up and being able to, again, like, restructure a relationship, take a step back, and like what you said of like having to readjust and recenter yourself a little bit.
Easier said than done, but yes.
Yes.
But also, like, on the flip side of that, if you're a person that's not,
if you're not the person that is needing to take a step back, I will say, please do not shame somebody for doing that, because there's a lot of people that will give you endless amounts of crap for, I've heard the word abandon thrown around. I've heard, and not necessarily with my situation here. It's just, I've been playing the game for like 20 plus years, which also leads to burnout.
What do you mean by abandon? Like, oh, that person left us.
Yeah, they just straight left us.
Gotcha.
Because it's gross.
I think it doesn't have to be that close. God, I think
You're
I
adorable.
think for people that like are saying that, they need to.
My arm's getting tired.
For you as a person, not everybody's opinion has to matter, because like
That's true.
like
That's absolutely true.
somebody tells you some shit or whatever, be like, oh, you can go kick rocks over there,
Yeah.
and I don't need it.
There's a cordial way.
Yes, you can be.
Kick rocks is definitely not the worst way to say it, but
Here, have it.
I get the puffball
Isn't
now.
it cute?
I think one of the best pieces of advice I was given, which was at my knighting, was don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from.
Yeah,
That's
pretty solid.
Yeah, thank you, Steph. That was the best knighting advice I'd gotten at my knighting, and it's something I kind of live by in Amtgard now, because there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions, and you're not
everybody's
gonna
got an
agree with
opinion.
everybody.
Don't say it.
I didn't.
Don't say it.
I didn't.
You was gonna say the old.
oh, were you gonna say I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say I thought about it too, but we all know everybody's got opinions, and you just have to kind of parcel through which ones you actually value.
Yeah.
That would just
Find
be
out who
my
your true
general
friends are too.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah,
What?
the people that really have your back.
Yes.
Because those are the opinions that you should really be taking to heart. Because those are the people that, even if you fail, they're going to be there to pick you back up.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I gotta take this.
That is
And
that is my. I'm not particularly. I don't know. I've not gotten more callous to it over the years, but I've gotten. Okay, maybe that is the word a little bit.
I think
but
you have to have like a little bit of a thick skin, a little bit.
My general advice, I guess, in this one would be to be kind to people who are setting boundaries for themselves.
Yeah. As just everybody. Yeah, Sorova.
Here you go. I get the puffball now. Yes.
Okay. So my question is more of how could you also suggest or help someone else around you? Like if you know somebody has burnout, do you have any advice for them as to how we should support them or even tell them verbally to take a break and they don't listen? Because,
Like as the friend.
Because as the friend, how do you help someone else through their burnout and help them take a step back? Do you have any advice or any insight on that?
So I think the way that I've done that and my time as an Amtgarder is just trying to be always like sincerely honest with people. I mean, in Amtgard and in real life, I'm not ever trying to throw smokes and mirrors. I'm not ever trying to I have no agenda in the game, right? So like, if I'm friends with you and I'm gonna tell you like, hey, or like I recognize somebody is having a hard time or like experiencing burnout and is not having a good time, let's have, next time we see each other, let's have a 30-minute heart to heart. We need to set this time aside and we need to talk about like
How we can improve.
Yeah, how do you really feel about the game right now? Like asking questions to them about their feelings and trying to get them to like introspect and think about it. That's kind of the way that I think about it. Because living in growing up in like a family of alcoholics, you can tell whomever you have a problem, you need to fix it. That doesn't solve anything.
Right.
You need to get whomever to realize that they have a problem and that it is a problem and they need to fix it.
They need to fix it themselves.
Yes, right. Like recognizing that something is a problem is half the battle.
That's a good point. Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Anyone else want the puffball?
When's the battle game? I don't want us to cut it.
Yeah, I know.
What?
All right.
Yeah.
So I think that's it.
Wait, no.
Oh, sorry.
I know. I keep going on. I do have advice though, if that's all right.
Yeah.
What I can speak to, being on the Serpent Path, I was knighted in 2019, and I think I'd been playing for around 15 years or so. Specifically to people, I'm sorry, on the Flame Path. I am tired. Specifically to people on the Flame Path, but I guess this could translate to other paths. People will have an idea of what you need to do to meet your goals. Don't let them put you in a box. Like, creativity is something that we thrive on day in and day out.
Yep.
If you keep jumping through hoops that other people set for you, you're not going to reach past them. You're not going to...
Yeah.
You're
reaching their goals, not your goals.
Yes, you have so much creativity inside you. Don't let them. It's fine to take advice, but if they put you in a box and say this is what you need to do to achieve this
whatever.
or attain this, be like, watch me.
Yeah.
Just watch me,
Yeah.
and then let that excite you and keep going.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
phone call.
Thanks for everything. Hold this. So that's all we have. And thank you, Nip, as
Thank you,
my
Agni.
guest host. And I'll see you next time on my Newb to Warlord series. Thanks.